This year is the worst for me because my girlfriend of 8 years cheated on me over a simple, Happy New Year message from someone she barely knew. She tried to make it seem like I was controlling and wanted to break up. But I recently discovered that she had been involved with another person since January, forming a so-called relationship with him over a span of 2 weeks. Throughout this time, she had been close with this guy multiple times while still going back and forth with me, which made the past few weeks a complete nightmare for me. To make things even worse, the guy she cheated with is an unemployed wannabe hippie who only has a talent for music. My fiancé threw away the 8 years we spent together, our plans for our own house, we'd even purchased land, and the opportunity for a stable life and family. Her decision has left me feeling more insulted than sad. When I asked her why she did it, she simply said that the other guy showed interest in what she had to say. What's more, I discovered that he had recently broken up with his own girlfriend. So, basically, they're just rebounding with each other. It's worth mentioning that I've always been there for her, even serving as her emotional support at times. However, she never once talked to me about my own problems during our 8-year relationship. It seemed like she didn't care about what was happening with me. I've come to accept that she's not a fair partner. But lately, I've been feeling extremely frustrated and unable to sleep because of what she did and who she chose to cheat with. Just a couple of days ago, we officially ended our relationship. It's been around a month since D-Day, the day everything went down. At the beginning of February, I decided to go no contact and see. So it's been 2 weeks now, and I'm slowly starting to recover. The intense anger I initially felt has subsided. And I'm now going through the stage of sadness and grieving. She didn't like the idea of NC because she wanted to remain friends, but I went ahead and blocked her on everything except Gmail. The reason I kept that open is because we had a mutual agreement with AA contract and all to divide the finances for the land we bought together when I thought our relationship was solid. I did tell her to email me specifically for land-related matters and to provide all the necessary details so we wouldn't have to rely on a messaging app. But then, completely out of nowhere, my ex-fiancé who cheated on me sent me a mysterious email on Hangout basically hinting that I should unblock her on the app so we can talk. This happened on February 15th, which still falls under the category of Valentine's Day for me. Being a bit naive, I replied to her email asking what it was all about because I couldn't just ignore it in case it was related to the land we bought together. However, I received no response from her. So I gathered up the courage and unblocked her on Hangouts and directly asked her what she wanted, but once again, no reply came. It's been a full 3 days since then. From my perspective, I started assuming that it wasn't really about the land at all. It seemed like either she wanted a backup plan for Valentine's Day or she purposely wanted to cause me anxiety and disrupt my healing process. I even explicitly told her before that I went no contact for the sake of my own recovery and moving on. The problem now is that her unexpected gesture has completely thrown me off track. I feel more anxious than ever, and the anger I had managed to subside is back in full force. I took the step of blocking her again on Hangouts and sent her an angry yet composed email. It's unbelievable how one small action can have such a devastating impact on me. And it's clear that she's using the land finances situation to possibly manipulate me back into her life as a backup plan or simply to mess with my emotions. If my suspicions are correct, her behavior is nothing short of cruel and malicious. Has anyone else experienced something similar with their exes? How do you stay focused and quickly bounce back on the path to recovery? I'm afraid this won't be the end of it, and I'll probably receive more unpleasant emails from her until we completely sell the land and divide the money, which could take months. She's the one handling the sale. So there's no other person I can reach out to regarding this matter. Life can be incredibly unfair. I feel like she has treated me unfairly, isolating me from the few friends I had left, leaving me completely alone. Even our mutual circle seems to have chosen her side, or she made sure to claim them. My family is not there for me either, and therapy is not an option at the moment. I'm left feeling utterly isolated and alone. Meanwhile, she gets to enjoy the support of a vast network. She has her family and friends who have accepted and condoned her actions. even after she cheated on me and left me for a guy she barely knew. Here I am stuck in my own deep sadness while she gets to distract herself, heal quickly, travel, party, engage in close relationships, date, and enjoy the endless support from those who tolerated what she did. She knew I was introverted and she knew I sometimes struggled with bouts of depression, but she never cared about that back then. And she never offered me any comfort. I tried to go no contact, but a few days ago, she suddenly reached out, extending an olive branch of friendship and showing concern for my mental well-being. Why should I believe she cares now when she didn't care when we were together? I rejected her offer of friendship and blocked her. Feeling even worse because I let her disrupt my progress with false hopes and breadcrumbs. It's even more painful knowing that she's out there having the time of her life with her support system, especially after I helped her secure her financial stability by getting her into my line of work. I feel so used and discarded. Now that she no longer needs me, she tossed me aside like a disposable rag. 8 years of my life wasted simply because I no longer served a purpose to her. Cheaters seem to come out on top, don't they? They took away my happiness, my dreams, my love, and almost everything I had. And now they get to revel in their ill-gotten gains. Screw this. I didn't deserve any of it. All I wanted was someone to grow old with in a normal, loving family. But now I feel even more isolated for simply desiring those things and working towards them. Thoughts of ending it all have strangely become a source of comfort to the point where they've helped me drift off to sleep. Life is so unfair and it feels like karma doesn't even exist. I'm relying on this community for support because it's all I have left. Please help me get through this. So it's been about 2 months of on and off no contact, and she suddenly reached out asking how I'm doing during the lockdown in our country. I didn't reply. The next day, she messaged me again with the same question. Part of me wants to respond and have a conversation with her. But I know she's still dating the person she left me for. She basically cheated on me by overlapping our relationships. They're probably cooped up together, keeping each other occupied during this month-long lockdown. Should I even bother responding to her? I feel like I'm standing at a crossroads here. She's reached out to me before during the earlier stages of no contact, but under different and safer circumstances. She would breadcrumb me asking about my well-being and even suggesting getting back together, while still with the other guy, only to change your mind the next day. I'm afraid that if I engage in conversation with her now, I'll just reset all the progress I've made in healing and fall for false hopes of reconciliation. She explicitly mentioned wanting to be friends as if keeping me as a backup plan. I turned down that offer. Should I respond to show her that I still care? Or would that just stroke her ego even more? The truth is, I'll be more messed up if my response doesn't lead to us getting back together, or if it leads to her giving me mixed signals. I really need some advice on how to move forward. So about a week ago, I shared a post about my ex-fiancée who reached out to me during the lockdown. I didn't respond to her, and she contacted me again afterwards. I chose not to reply because she has a history of breadcrumbing me while I was practicing no contact, but here's the latest update. Today, she started reaching out to my relatives on Facebook. So far, she's added my cousin and has been chatting with them. This is because I blocked her on everything else and didn't respond to her email messages. Now my cousin is asking me what they should say to her and whether or not to reply. I'm worried that if we don't handle well, she might start messaging my friends or other family members asking about me. It's a bit amusing, to be honest. I can't help but wonder if her actions are driven by genuine concern or if it's just the result of no contact finally getting to her, making her anxious now that I'm out of her life. And what the heck should I tell my cousin about how to respond to her? Since February, I've been going back and forth with her in terms of no contact. She even breadcrumbing me. And at one point, she asked to get back together over a phone call only to change her mind the very next day. Mind you, she was already with the guy she replaced me with during all of this. Now, let's fast forward to yesterday. Despite ignoring her emails where she asked how I was doing during a lockdown in our region, she went ahead and called me on Hangouts. I didn't expect much and wasn't particularly interested, but I must admit it felt good to have some power over her. so I decided to answer, and we had a conversation. However, I made sure not to show any emotion or interest in being friends with her, nor did I provide much information about myself. I kept my responses brief and to the point. She began the call by apologizing for the messy breakup, even though she had already said sorry multiple times before I even started the no contact. However, she conveniently avoided apologizing for the affair itself, probably trying to avoid facing the truth. I found it strange, so I simply replied with an okay and told her that it didn't really matter to me because I was already moving on. I had a feeling she had ulterior motives when she asked if I was seeing someone else, or if I was dating a mutual acquaintance. We both knew. I chose not to answer and had to mute my microphone to hold back my laughter. Fortunately, she didn't press the issue much after I refused to respond. However, she still seemed eager and even asked about my goals and what I've been up to. So in a casual manner, I told her that I've been learning to play the guitar, making new friends, and planning to get LASIK surgery so I can finally rock aviator shades. She got all excited when she found out that I can play the guitar now. Probably because the guy she replaced me with was a struggling musician. I admit it was a petty move on my part, but it gave me a sense of satisfaction to imply that his one-trick pony skills weren't anything special. Then I asked her if her boyfriend knew that she was talking to me. Her response was a simple, "What boyfriend?" basically denying his existence, even though she had just posted an Instagram story of the date back in early March. So I changed my question and asked if the guy knew that she was talking to me. She said yes, but I highly doubt it. I kinda feel sorry for the guy now after that. She asked if I had told any of our friends or mutual acquaintances about what she did to me, including her affairs, which by the way, I did share with my friends. This made me realize that she hasn't really changed much since we broke up. She still has narcissistic traits and cares too much about her image. I simply responded, "If you two are happy together, why does it matter?" and ended the discussion there. Then she asked me to unblock her on all social media platforms, but I refused and tried to wrap up the call by saying, "Sorry. Can't do that. Is there anything else?" She replied saying that was all she wanted to say, even though her other questions seemed to suggest otherwise. She then said, "Okay. I'm going to hang up now," but didn't actually hang up for a few seconds. I thought maybe she expected me to plead and continue talking, but I took the initiative and hung up first. She hasn't bothered me since last night, and I haven't reached out to her either. It did give me a bit of anxiety, but it wasn't something that kept me up at night. In fact, I slept well after the call. When I woke up today, I felt confused and had intrusive thoughts. I started wondering if she was just breadcrumbing me, playing with my emotions, or if she was simply bored due to the cabin fever. It's possible she doesn't want me to move on and wants to keep me as a backup option. Regardless, after several weeks of no contact and meeting new people, I've come to realize my own value. I refuse to be someone's plan B. Maybe she expected me to be the one to suggest getting back together, as that was a pattern in our on and off relationship. It's as if she wanted to have me in her life again while still being with someone else, or even potentially cheating on them. Overall, I believe my response of maintaining a neutral and unemotional stance. The grey rock technique has been pretty decent. What do you think? Just to give you some background, my ex who cheated on me still owes me $4,000, which is a significant amount in my country. In September, I reached out to her for an update on the payment because we had a signed contract stating that she should pay it off by the end of 2020. She suggested that we discuss it on Hangouts, and I agreed. We had a conversation last night. As it turns out, she wanted to request an extension on the payment date until next year. On top of that, she shared some details about her current life situation. Due to the impact of COVID, she lost her 2 high-paying freelance jobs and now works a regular 9-to-5 office job that pays just above minimum wage. To make matters worse, there is a severe outbreak in our country right now. She also informed me that she lost her condominium unit because she couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. It got repossessed, and now she has to live with her aunt. It's a tough situation for her as she lost all the money she had already invested in that apartment, which amounted to $1,000. To add to that, The guy she left me for happened to be a struggling musician who didn't have much money. I heard through some friends that they broke up last month, although I can't confirm it myself. Instead of feeling happy or fortunate about it, I found myself feeling sorry for her. It was the first time I heard her utter the word please since she cheated on me and walked away. I ended up asking her if she was feeling depressed. And she admitted that she was. She even mentioned being close to that certain point in depression where she had no goals or dreams left. Just getting by from one month to the next by taking dead-end call center jobs. It was shocking to hear. This wasn't the intelligent and confident girl I once loved. She had changed. I didn't want to dig any deeper into her struggles. My reaction to her situation was like that of a parent scolding their irresponsible child. I asked her what on earth happened to her, and why she allowed it to happen. I even felt a bit offended by her job choice because I had influenced her to aim for high-paying freelance jobs and to never settle for less than she deserved in the job market when we were together. Hearing such a defeated tone from her was something I'd never experienced before. So I tried my best to cheer her up. She has basically lost everything, and now she's surrounded by jobless relatives who are trying to take advantage of her meager income. The breadwinner culture in this country is insane. And here I am, losing sleep over something that I thought would bring me peace of mind. A few months ago, before COVID, I would have probably laughed at her for facing such karma. But now I'm genuinely worried about her. I even considered giving her some of my work to help her out. I was even considering granting her that extension she for until I suddenly remembered her capacity for lying and all the pain she caused me. So I wasn't sure what to do, and I just told her that I needed some time to think about granting the extension. The trauma and trust issues from our past are still affecting me, I guess. On one hand, it seems like I have no choice but to consider the extension because it's unlikely she'll be able to pay on time anyway. On the other hand, I really don't want to take this to court and make things even worse for her. It feels like kicking someone when they're already down. I don't want to push her to the point of wanting to end things because I know how awful that feels considering she did it to me before. I'm afraid she might not be able to handle it. Did I make the right decision by telling her or think about it, or was I too harsh and unsympathetic? This situation is not what I had expected when I wished for karma to catch up with her. It's strange. Despite everything she did, I think I still care for her in some way, or at least for the person she used to be. Second story, on the morning of my brother's wedding, I heard a notification sound from her phone. I saw it was a message from a friend of hers that we had considered as a potential partner a couple of weeks ago. In a moment of desperation, I did something I had never done before. I snooped on her phone to see if she had mentioned anything about him. As I scrolled through their text messages, I came across one that completely shocked me. It said something like, "I'm not the type to just have a one-night stand and not talk about it." It was paralyzing to read through their texts and messages to her best friend and mother. I learned a lot in a short amount of time. Apparently, this had happened 3 weeks earlier, just days after we had made deposits and set a date for our wedding. She had invited him over to hang out at 9 p.m. Previously, she had told me that their relationship was purely platonic, with a history of being good friends on and off since they were 4 years old. Except for one failed kiss attempt in high school, she was at her mother's house in her hometown preparing for a cousin's wedding, where she was the maid of honor. She had informed her mother that he was coming over to hang out. Thinking nothing was out of the ordinary. In the text messages, she lied to him, claiming that she had told me everything. She also lied to her mother and best friend, saying that they had only kissed and that she had informed me about everything, which was not true. Both of us had important roles in my brother's wedding. I was the best man and DJ while she was the officiant. As I said on the hotel bed, I grabbed my journal and started writing to let out my emotions while figuring out what I should do. I made a decision to put all my efforts into making it the best day possible for my brother and his wife. I chose to hold off confronting her until we returned home the next day. I had to put on a facade of cheerfulness and avoid causing a scene. The entire day felt like torture. from her delivering the prepared speech as the officiant to my family members approaching me at different times, praising her performance and expressing excitement for our coming wedding. Being the DJ helped distract me to some extent, but I ended up drinking too much and got quite sick in the late hours of the night, likely due to the overwhelming situation I was dealing with. We drove separately to the wedding, and the next morning, I took the opportunity to start writing a letter to her that I planned to confront her with when she returned home. I had made up my mind that I wanted to reconcile for two main reasons, whether they were rational or not. Firstly, our relationship had lasted for 9 years. And 5 years ago, I had ended things with her because I was going through a mental breakdown or experiencing some kind of shift, and I needed a break from the relationship. Looking back, I don't think I handled that situation and the 3-month break that year in the best way. Somehow, I convinced myself that she deserved another chance just like she had given me when I left her heartbroken during the previous break and breakup. I apologize if this sounds confusing. My mind has been quite overwhelmed for the past 4 months. In the letter, I made several demands. One of them was for her to apologize to her mom and best friend for lying to them. I also insisted that we find a couples therapist and start going as soon as possible. Another demand was that if the friend she slept with didn't confess the truth to his wife, I would confront her myself. I needed to know all the details of what happened. Whether it was a one-time thing, and why she hadn't told me about it. As I prepared for the confrontation, I wasn't completely sure if I still wanted to continue the relationship. I had a couple of scenarios in mind. If she avoided the conversation, walked away, or refused to explain everything, I was ready to call it quits. However, if I sensed that she was sincere and willing to meet my demands, we would be on shaky ground for a while until we started couples therapy. When she arrived home, I wasted no time and immediately confronted her. I sat her down and had her read the letter I had written. As she started reading a few lines, she tried to change the subject by saying, "Can we talk about this?" I didn't back down and firmly replied, "If you still have any respect for me, read what I wrote first, and then we can talk." After she had read about a page, she burst into tears and couldn't stop crying. Her sobbing continued throughout all 6 pages of the letter. Once she had composed herself, I asked her direct questions, and made specific demands. She admitted that it had only happened once. The other guy had been expressing his frustrations about his lack of closeness with his wife for over 6 months, 2 DUIs, and losing his job. And he made advances towards her, which she eventually reciprocated. They didn't use any protection. I also asked her about the idea of being with multiple guys, and she confessed that she had used it as a way to justify her cheating and alleviate her guilt. I know the logic behind it is quite something. The reason she gave her cheating didn't make much sense to me either. She claimed that the other guy was vulnerable and expressing how miserable his life was and she felt sorry for him. But to me, it just sounded like he was complaining, and she felt pity. She admitted that she didn't tell me right away because I had previously made it clear that cheating was a definite deal-breaker for me. She even mentioned talking to her therapist and preparing for the possibility of us breaking up. At first, I didn't plan on cutting off contact between her and the other guy. However, 2 weeks after our confrontation, he came clean to his wife and completely ended contact with my fiancée. His parents, who she had been friends with for a long time, also severed ties with her. On that day, I received a message on Facebook from his wife informing me that my fiancée had cheated on me with her husband. We had a lengthy conversation about everything, and she decided to kick him out for an unspecified period of time and keep the 2 kids with her. It was somewhat comforting to talk to someone who was going through a similar situation, and we agreed to have no further contact between them. For the next 2 months after the confrontation, things seemed to improve. We were more open with each other, had better communication, became more close, and started couples therapy. Unfortunately, it didn't last. During one of our therapy sessions, she revealed that the idea of taking a break or separating had crossed her mind recently. She felt the need to understand why she had done what she did and whether she truly wanted to marry me and envision a future together. A week later, she confronted me and expressed her desire to move forward with the break, saying she would find a relative to stay with. For a period of 2 weeks, she spoke with her relatives and eventually decided to stay with her sister. She's currently unemployed, which I think played a role in her needing some time to figure things out on her own. Another concern of mine is how she's become really obsessed with astrology lately, like it's consuming her thoughts or something. Despite feeling extremely frustrated with the situation, I granted her wish to have some space. During the past 3 weeks of this separation, my emotions have been all over the place. However, I think I've come to accept that I'll be okay even if she doesn't want to continue our relationship. During this time apart, I've reflected on everything that has happened, and I can't seem to move past the fact that the cheating occurred just days after we booked a wedding venue. I'm still hurting and trying to heal from all of this, and it's tough to accept that she's the one making the decisions about whether she wants to stay or not. Surprisingly, I haven't felt suspicious or distrusting of her cheating on me with him or anyone else. But maybe that's because I'm being naive and somehow not dealing with the major trust issues right now. Fortunately, I have received good support from a couple of relatives and close friends, and I've been seeing my own therapist for the past 3 months. So I do have a strong support system in place. Dealing with a cheating partner is something no one should have to go through. And it's definitely not something I was prepared for. I'm just doing my best to navigate through this situation. If things don't work out, I know I'll be okay in the end.